All right, y'all, we're out here in the garage tonight getting ready for the hangover hair scramble at Wacomico Motocross Park in Mechanicsville, Maryland, right next to Budds Creek. It's coming up Sunday. So I am not going to race the Stark this weekend. They are running the e-bikes only in the afternoon race, which I think is kind of dumb because that's a 2-hour race. And these things have batteries and they don't last as long as you can ride one of these bikes. So I don't want to get home super late. Also not looking to get run over by pros all afternoon. I'm not a pro rider or anywhere near that level. So I am gonna race the beta this weekend. So had to prep the bike because I don't ride it that often anymore. So I put in air filter, did oil change, and I got to thinking about, I've seen a lot of comments lately with this Stark Varg EX coming out on people saying like, talking about how expensive the bike is and all that, which, 10 to 15 grand for a dirt bike is a lot. It's probably comparable to like a KTM or a Husky. But when you look at the whole life cycle cost of owning one of these versus owning one of these, I think I paid close to 11 grand out the door for this 2020 Beta 300. And it was probably closer to 14 for this, for the Stark. I got it in December of 2023, so I've had it just over a year now. But when you look at the life cycle cost of owning a two-stroke dirt bike, you got to think about, if you're racing every weekend, or I guess every other weekend almost in the summertime from March to November, the season I run, the race season that I do has 14 races a year. And if you do all of them, you're riding a lot. And if you are doing maintenance on a bike that much, you're changing oil and air filters a lot. And if you look at the price of all this stuff, when you think about this and you do the math, okay, that bike costs 4 to 5 grand more than this bike. Well, on the Stark, you're not doing oil changes, air filters, air filter oil, premix, or race fuel. So if you look at that stuff, oil, like quality oil kind of across the board, is probably close to like $15 a quart now in January of 2025. I looked up the price of a air filter for this bike on Revzilla for a new one. It's like $35. A no-toil kit with the filter, oil, and the cleaner and the rim grease is 25 bucks. That'll maybe get you through 3 changes of your air filter. So I don't know, call that like $8-9 bucks every time you do that, even if you don't buy the filter. I have like 2-3 filters and I just rotate them out. The premix, depending on what you buy, I found, just looking it up because I haven't bought it in a long time, the premix, the like mow tool that the Beta manual recommends, was $28 a quart, which seemed really high. Amsoil is 15 bucks a quart or so, if you get their membership. And then if you don't do that and you buy race gas, you're looking at 100 bucks for like less. It's not even 5 gallons. It's like 20 liters, which is, I don't even know what the conversion is off the top of my head, but it's not 5 gallons. So if you think about one race, you're buying, call it 2.5 gallons of gas. I typically try to buy like ethanol free, at least at a minimum, premium, which is, I don't know, call it 10 bucks for 2.5 gallons, which is probably pretty generous. Then you got, depending on what premix you run, 5 to 10 bucks in premix for 2.5 gallons of gas, or a half a jug of EP, which is 50 bucks. Then you've got your air filter and oil change, so that's another $20 to $60 depending on how much you got to spend for that. So one race, you're spending anywhere from $35 to $110. There's 14 races in a season. So that's like $1,500 just in this stuff in one race season. That doesn't count things like top ends. If you bust up an exhaust, I put a battery in this bike. That's $200. The Stark doesn't have any of that. So even at, I guess, you're not doing maybe you're doing a top end every season, depending on how much you're racing. Top end's probably, I don't know, if you do it yourself, between $500 and $700, depending on how much stuff you got to replace. So that adds another, I don't know, what's that? $1,000 to it, so 25. So let's call it 2 race seasons. You've basically paid the same for that bike, even if you paid 15 grand for it, which I think is what the new EXs are selling for from like their pre-order or whatever that they're doing right now. They're not for everybody. I get it. They are what they are. It's not a gas bike. I get it. I get that it's not for everybody. But I do see a lot of comments about people like talking about how expensive they are. And to me, I'm like, well, you got to think about the whole picture here. You're not doing, and not to mention your time. Like doing all that stuff is, I've been out here for, I don't know, an hour messing around with this thing. I'd rather be doing something else on a Friday night. I need to be cleaning all my gear and getting all my other stuff ready too. So it's just like, another thing to spend time and money on. But anyway, that's my spiel on the life cycle cost of a Stark Varg versus like a 2-stroke 300 or whatever else you got. 4-stroke is probably comparable. You don't have to buy premix, but top end's more expensive. Valve, you got to check valves and all that type of stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts. So thanks for listening.